G'day guys, thanks for joining us on the Noob Spearo podcast today. You're joining Turbo and I in studio, along with our partner spearfishing.com.au, who have helped us bring this show to you today. Now you can use the code NoobSpearo at checkout at spearfishing.com.au to save $20 on all purchases over $200. That goes along with competitive shipping rates worldwide and a 90-day no-hassles returns policy. You can also visit Adreno in their physical stores in Melbourne, Sydney or Brisbane and just check out a huge range of spearfishing equipment. So shop with our sponsor spearfishing.com.au and support the Noob Spearo podcast.
Hey guys, very happy to announce that Speared Apparel have come on board with the Noob Spearo, and we'd just like to let you know that Speared have released their brand new Novo wetsuit. Absolutely fantastic. The camo colours look amazing. It's really stretchy, but the cool thing about it is it doesn't require any lube. I know on cold mornings my most hated thing is lubing up a wetsuit and getting into it. It's uncomfortable. I hate it. And as this wetsuit doesn't require any lube, it means you're probably going to get in the water first, and that means get the fish first. So that's very, very important. So get on to spearedapparel.com, use the code NOOBERS at checkout, that's NOOBERS at checkout, and you'll save 10% off any purchase store-wide. That's spearedapparel.com, use the code NOOBERS at checkout, save yourself 10%. G'day boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Noob Spearo podcast. Today we have an absolute cracker interview for you with none other than Adventureman Dan. Adventureman Dan, who is he? Well, he is a young American bloke travelling the world, spearfishing the world. He's done Australia, he's done New Zealand, he's done South Africa, and now he's off to the Middle East. It's awesome to follow along on Facebook, and it's awesome to watch him on Instagram and what he's up to there. Absolutely very entertaining stuff, great guy, and it seems like the spearfishing community has been very kind to him. He's reached out to a lot of people on his travels and they've taken him out spearfishing. So he's living the dream, and he lays out for us how you can live the same dream as him and make the most of your world travel and your spearfishing travel. But before we get into it, Shrek, we have a fantastic review for the 99 Tips to Become Better at Spearfishing book.
That's right. It wasn't from either of our mums. I don't know what happened here. He's not related to either of us.
My mum's internet crashed, so she's been offline. There's been no reviews.
Good old country New South Wales internet. So, Peter Denton, he is an absolute cracker of a bloke. We've had a few exchanges with him. His review says on Amazon.com, "This fabulous ebook is an absolute must for every enthusiastic Spearo's library, from noob to veteran. Not only is each tip just stuffed with actionable intel on how to max out your hunt, but each tip has tips within tips. The publisher must have had a character limit which kept the quantity of tips in the title to double digits, because in reality this is easily triple digits of tips, certainly well into the hundreds." I read this book on the flight to my latest spearfishing trip and was a much better Spearo as a result, landing the most epic fish of my life. My bottom times exploded, my hunting was highly stealthy, and the fish feared me more than ever. Plus, this book comes from the esteemed producers of the Noob Spearo podcast. Finally, some serious stuff.
Yeah.
So you can listen to all sorts of epic Spearo talk from down under to further hone your skills and connect with the Spearo community. Buy this book, he says. Become a more badass Spearo. Thanks, Peter. That was champion effort.
Fucking epic. My tail is wagging. I'm that happy.
I was cacking myself when I read it. I loved it.
Yeah, it's a bloody ripper.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you, Pete. And we hope you teamed up with Tevis over there, mate, and got out spearfishing.
Yeah.
While we're saying, giving a bit of love back, a quick thank you to, I think it's Johannes Katakis.
Lekker, man, lekker.
No, I don't even know that he's South African.
Ah.
So, but thanks for that. That was good.
Okay.
Probably said something derogatory there.
It's my Afrikaans.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's pretty
beautiful, mate.
Come on, Turbo Butt.
Johannes Katakis, mate. Thank you, mate, for tagging us in your photos. And if you're on Insta, get on, check him out. He's got some great pics. Looks like he's travelling around spearfishing the world as well. And our mate Vaughan Lowe over there in South Africa just landed a 30 kg dogger salmon or mulloway. It's his first he's ever shot, which is not a bad way to start at 30 kg.
That's a cracker.
And Ben Rennie, mate, thanks for the kind words on Instagram, mate. Your pics are looking absolutely mint. Keep up the good work.
Awesome. And I had the latest subscriber to the floater, James Fisher. Thanks for reaching out, buddy. You guys can join the floater as well at noobspearo.com. Sign up, get yourself 10 tips to become a better Spearo, plus a dive day checklist with with a highly photoshopped version of me on there.
Are you wearing a corset under your wetsuit? Because you look a
all
lot
I can
more...
say is the guy that did the photo, he was an artiste. And look, there's a couple of vouchers on there for our major sponsor at spearfishing.com.au. You can actually get a free pack when you sign on and spend $50 and use our new code on there. So
come again, what's this? I don't even know about this.
No.
Why didn't you run this by me? I'm an integral part of this show.
Anyway, so jump on noobsparrow.com, sign up to the floater, enjoy James. He said to us, hey lads, keep up the good work in 2017. Thanks, James. And talking about 2017, we've got some absolute cracker guests lined up this year.
Oh.
We've got several on the way that are just bloody fantastic.
If you thought we looked like amateurs before, it's going to be even worse now. These guys are absolutely top notch. But I just want to say too, stick around to the end of the show because Adventureman Dan lays out what he's looking for in a travel partner. He's about to do a full US tour and he's looking for a buddy, a mate, just a travel companion to go spearfishing up and down the, I don't know which coast is
West
he doing?
Coast.
West Coast, is he? So,
and he wants to start like right up in the cold too, like proper stuff.
Yeah, he's proper adventurous. So
he really puts the adventure in Adventureman Dan.
Wow, you should be in sales. That was fantastic.
So anyway, here he comes, Daniel J. Byrne, Adventureman Dan. Enjoy the interview, guys. G'day guys, thanks for listening to the Noob Sparrow podcast today. We're a little bit sport. We've got someone joining us from South Africa, although he's definitely not South African. He's going to share all about his dental work experience over there in South Africa.
He's got a winning smile, this man.
But Dan joins us with extensive spearfishing travel experience. Where are you at the moment, Dan? And g'day.
Oh, g'day. Hey, thank you guys very, very much for having me here. It's a bit of an honor. No, I'm in Cape Town, South Africa right now. I've been in Cape Town for about a month and a half, and in South Africa for just about 3 months now.
Nice. And you're just doing mystery shopping at different dental practices there.
Yeah, just you walk along the street here, and you never know who you'll bump into. Maybe it's a car, maybe it's then later the guy comes out after. But no, it's
cool.
Dental work is cheap here, at least. It was much cheaper than when I got it done in Australia, so it's all been good so far.
That's cool. So, look, give us a little bit of background on sort of on yourself and where you came from and how you got started spearfishing.
Yeah, well, I actually grew up in upstate New York. So I am from the States, by the way, but yeah, I grew up in upstate New York. My father was a very, very active swimmer and snorkeler, and he himself used to spearfish in Rhode Island. But never really got the chance to get into the ocean, but he'd take us to all of our local rivers and lakes, and we were always snorkeling there. And I didn't know it at the time, but it was just free diving, but I was maybe 10 or 11 at most.
Oh, wow.
And it kind of progressed from there. And eventually, when I was 19, I moved out on my own to California, kind of chasing the California dream. And
chasing the California girls, maybe.
Yeah. There's a lot to chase out there. No, it's good. Fish and, surf and turf.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I had a pretty memorable first dive, actually. It was real memorable. It was a good buddy of mine named Ryan Bowen, and I was kind of helping him. He was trying to get in shape for these programs for the military, so I was helping him out with that. And
okay.
He was like, "Hey, you want to come spearfishing?" And at the time, I was doing surfing a lot, and I was like, "Man, it's really what I've always wanted to do. More adventure there." And yeah, so we went out spearfishing, and I threw up a bit, and and it was good fun. And that was out in Monterey, California. And Monterey sits more or less in the Northern California area. And not a lot of pelagics to hunt, really no pelagics to hunt. Just a lot of reef fish. It's very cool water, but huge, California giant kelp coming up from 25, 70 some odd feet.
Yeah. And
it's just absolutely breathtaking. But yeah, the memorable part though was, I was in the absolutely terrible, scuba diving suit, and we start coming back in, and somewhere in the kelp he sees something, and he dives down and he pulls it back up, and it was an identical spear gun to his, a JBL 36-inch. It was brand new.
Oh, sweet.
It must have been used, just once. It was a very, very strange setup. I've never seen it since. It had the knife attached to the gun. But he had this identical gun in his hand, so all of a sudden he has two of the same gun. And he kind of looks at me and he goes, and he was deciding which one to give me. And he's like, well, I'll give you the new gun. So I got a spear gun and I got a knife, my first time ever, and couldn't seem to find whose ever gun it was. I don't think they really wanted it that badly. They left it there in the kelp for us, real sorts. But yeah, that was kind of the introduction, and then I just got the gear and just kind of worked my way up and then started diving more and more. But it was a very, very steady increase from there. Spearfishing really took over, and it's got so many facets to it that it's just a very consuming, passion.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely. It seems that every American Spearo, when they get started, has a JBL. It's like the common theme. Everybody has. It's like a wooden gun, isn't it? Like a wooden JBL.
Yeah. I think they do pipe guns as well, but they make the one at least I had it's just a solid mahogany plank. It's dirt simple. Even the way the safety works, the safety just puts a little piece of plastic between the trigger and the rest of the handle.
Yeah.
So it's when the safety's on because it's pretty obvious. And no, they're very. I mean, I haven't used any of their larger guns, only their small their small reef gun there. But I absolutely love the thing. I still have it. I've only ever owned one spear for it.
Yeah.
I've taken a couple inches or however centimeters that is there off the end, and no, I mean, eventually one day I'll have to change the thing out, and get a different spear. I mean, it's a great little gun. It really is. I got a lot of good respect for that gun, and it was at a good price. It was a worthwhile price.
So, look, you're over there in the giant kelp forest and diving some cold water, chasing reef species with your brand new JBL. What were some of the obstacles you faced sort of early on, and how did you overcome them?
Learning the species, in Northern California, all the species, or most of the species that you really want to get, tend to blend in. And the main species, no doubt, is the California Ling Cod. The best way I could describe it is it's like a dragon without arms or legs or wings. It's just this big old body, and it moves almost like a snake, and it's got this very big head, but a ton of teeth in there.
Okay.
But it's an incredible fish. So you never know where it's going to be hanging in around the kelp forest. A lot of times it'll be in caves, so there's a lot of hole hunting involved. Mm-hmm. But the skin and whatnot of it, and bit of scales, it's all designed to blend into the environment. So in Northern California, you had to adapt your eyes to see everything that was going on. Or there was always just rock cod everywhere. So it was very, very plentiful for that. But at the time, I didn't really know just how much else was there. And years later, I would discover, rock scallops that they live up to their names, or they look just like a rock, but are, honest to God, one of the best tasting things in the ocean.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. Yeah, okay. So learning to use your eyes and train them to spot the various species. So maybe like with your first, was it a Ling Cod?
Oh, yeah. It was Ling Cod is more or less a trophy. That's like the best fish you can get there on the reef. There's several, cabezons blend in extremely well as well. Brickleback monkey face eels and wolf eels are a couple other special ones not too many people can grab.
All right, so maybe tell us about an early win, like a memorable fish, and the sort of the story leading up to how you landed it.
Oh, definitely. I did a lot of shore diving, but when I got the chance to, I quickly found that going off of a kayak was just made a whole lot more sense. I really enjoyed it. So one day I was out in Carmel, California, which is just north of Monterey. Very, very nice, very rich area. I took the kayak out, and my dad was back on shore, which was kind of good because I had about 8 hours out there, spewed a ton of good fish, having a close-up with a harbor seal, and was able to pet it like a dog. And this is years back. This was before I started filming anything, so it still stuck with me.
Yeah.
But no, on the way back in, I marked a few rocks. I said, on the way back in, I'm going to check this rock, and I'm going to check this one. And I really didn't pack enough water, so I was pretty dehydrated. But it was this one rock, and I committed. I came up to it. I tied the kayak up to the kelp, and I committed to doing one circle around it. And there was really nothing on it, nothing at all. A lot of sand kind of working in there, which isn't really a good environment. Sand in the caves. You want more of a rocky cave surrounded by the kelp if you want a Ling Cod.
Yep.
And ended up just about in the 360, just about all the way around, and I'm down in this hole, and I'm shining my light, and I see this beautiful abalone shell, but then I tick my light just a couple degrees to the left, and there's this huge toothy smile looking back at me. I'm like, oh! and it was about a 3-foot Ling Cod.
Wow.
It's a good size for up there. It's a very good size. It's not like New Zealand where you can pick up monster fish all the time or something. No, in Northern California, a 3-foot Ling is a nice one.
Wow.
And all I thought was, don't hit the gill plate, because if you hit the gill plate with a 36 Magnum, and mine was always dull because I was always shooting fish straight into rocks. Because a lot of them would always be like, yes. So the thing was pretty much as sharp as a pistol bullet. It was real rounded.
Yeah. It's all punch.
The shot. Yeah. It might as well just been flat for all I care. At least it would have had a couple edges around it. But no, the shot went off. It was a real quirky shot. My arm was. The tip of the gun was probably parallel with my head. I wasn't even outstretched for it. And this is very, very deep into a cave by now. And this is very, very deep. So I'm flattened against the bottom. The shot goes into the fish, and a big plume goes up. I go to grab my spear, and I pull my spear, and there's no weight on the spear, which is just every spear knows is just the worst feeling of seeing that beautiful fish, and you pull the trigger, and then there's nothing there. Yep. It's like, no. And I could just barely make it out, and I just reached my hand in again and grabbed it from underneath its gill plate, and it just ended up just getting a good hand on it and just swam it straight up. And I'm still not sure what I hit. It wasn't a headshot. It must have been a spine shot maybe, but it must have owned it. But the spear only went in maybe 3 inches and then just came right back out. But I was able to swim up with the fish, and it definitely pushed my limits for sure. It was a longer dive than I meant it to be, and my heart rate certainly went up. I certainly got a bit of buck fever on that one. Yeah. But man, I hit the surface and just when I got back to the shore was really good. My old man's there on the shore, and he spent years telling me about back in my day, Rhode Island, this and that, and so he's getting up there in age, and it was a really good moment for me to come back on the shore, and I had a ton of fish. I had actually a couple other personal bests that day.
Yeah, nice.
But the Ling Cod just really stood out, and kind of to add to the grandeur of it all. The beach that I came back to was very, very populated. A lot of tourists, a lot of beachgoers.
Alpha Day.
I got mobbed. Yes. Oh my god. Oh, it something like
best.
50 people, and I was pretty dehydrated too, and so I was a little loopy, and it was pretty funny. But no, we got a few cell phone pictures. They're somewhere way back logged, but that was so early, and that really was that was a good chapter for me. It was a good day. It was a good dive. It taught me a lot about kayaking, about checking those spots. Pick the spots that look good. Go out of your way. Don't stop where it's easy. Go out where it's hard. And that's a theme that I've tried to live through as I do this trip, as I've been traveling this last year. And I didn't stay in Northern California. Probably another year after that, so I moved down to San Diego, California, and began spearfishing the Southern California species, which are somewhat similar. You still have the kelp, but a lot more pelagics, and a lot of things kind of evolved from there. But I'll definitely look back at that fish, and even eating that fish. I had a friend who owned a restaurant. I was able to bring it in, and he was able to cook it up for me, and those were the days. Those were the days,
Dan, if I can go back, mate, you said that you had a torch there. Is that when you're hunting Ling Cod and you're in that Northern Californian area, for new guys starting out, is a torch a bit of a necessity for hunting those fish?
Northern California, absolutely. Most of the time, you're scanning what's around you. Sometimes a Ling Cod might be hanging out in the sun, on a nice, calm and clear day. But those are actually pretty hard to come by in Northern California. I know of a lot of shit days up there. Yeah. And I could even remember because I was living in Santa Cruz, which is known for its surfing, not for its spearfishing. Yep. And it was the first Ling Cod I got was there. It was right off of Steamer's Lane, a very, very popular surf spot. And you're ducking your head into all these holes, and without the torch, you really don't stand much of a chance at all at seeing what's in there. And I can remember spearing on a day where if I outstretched the JBL, which is not a long gun, I couldn't see the end of it. But I ended up coming back that day with a couple of cabezons. Just look for the structure, look for the structure. Then once you get down there, then look for the for the eyes or for the telltales. They'll bring you in for the fish. And most of the Northern California species, they're not super flighty. They're not like a New Zealand snapper or anything like that. Most of them, they like to stay in their hole, or they might bug out. But you really gotta push your luck. Usually it's just about seeing them and then just kind of moving it on from there.
Yeah, cool. With cave hunting, because it is pretty common in some of these waters, torches are obviously a go-to. I've heard another trick. I don't know if you use this as well. Like some guys say when you're on the surface, you close one eye and swim all the way down without opening it. And then when you get to the cave, you've still got like night vision, like with one eye. Is that just horse shit, or is that something you've used?
You could definitely do that. I know that more from other things, more from what was it? Would be airsoft. Honestly,
Dan, he's hitting me in the shoulder like he's the man, like he's just discovered something amazing. Like he's so pumped about this question. Anyway,
I just wanted to sneak a little ninja trick in there.
It is a good question, but it does take a whole while to preserve it in one eye, and not to mention if you just pop your head up. I mean, the sun's light is going to kind of, a bit of it's going to pass through your eyelid just a little bit even. And even that's going to kind of take back some of your night vision. No, just get a bright light, just get the brightest light that you can. Which I don't remember the makes or the models, but I actually used to have one that was a tactical light, but it was too bright. It would actually scare fish. But it still felt pretty good to go down there. And doing night dives especially, I did night dives off of Catalina in Southern California, usually going for lobster. You feel pretty safe. You feel like you've got like like a lightsaber or something. Everything else is kind of bumping around in the night, and then you're just like, I am man. Here's my light, and you just cast it wherever you want to, and it's a lot of fun that way.
Dan, one of the we asked a recent question about what guys want to hear more about. One of them was more location specific information. So I wanted to ask you about Northern California. What are some of the premium weather conditions like for us? Like if we have a northerly, we get dirty water, northerly wind, we sort of get dirty water in the bay. What are some of the little intricacies with the weather for Northern California that you would look for?
Well, first off, I'd say, to be honest, I'm not a good person to ask for this. I've got a terrible reputation, I guess, of just being like, well, I have a day off. There's probably fish in the ocean.
Just dive and
better go get out there. Yeah. No, I've dove on some really bad days and just stuck with it. I'm not really sure why, but no, really for Northern California, which I mean, it's just one of the places I've dove that I started out there, so I always kind of think back to that wherever I go further. But Northern California, you really want less swell, and it can really get hammered pretty hard by the swell, and the swell is just going to stir things up. So you're just looking for just the flattest day you possibly can. I have noticed that. I mean, definitely when I was in Australia, and especially now with South Africa on the East Coast and on the West Coast on Cape Town, guys will say like, "Oh, it's a northwesterly or a southeast or whatever," and they say that's going to clear things up, and it's not something I'm used to dealing with. I mean, for me, it's just a bit different. And the other thing about Northern California and the geography and really the geology up there plays a huge role into the structure in the ocean bottom. Then you get a lot of these bays up there that, I mean, there was one spot, you can't even call it a bay. It was a crater next to the ocean that the waves would fill into it. And the ocean was so bad, I realized if I went in, I couldn't get back out because the swell was so large. Wow. And this was up in what's called Big Sur. Big Sur sits just below Monterey, California, and just above San Luis Obispo. But really, it's a section of California that there's just no development, and it's a place I've gone back to many times. But it's a bit treacherous, and it's just hard just to get in. But this one little crater I hopped into, it's just full of life. I pulled out 5 rock scallops out of there, and I think I pulled an octopus too. We're talking like a kiddie pool, It was absolutely ridiculous, and it kind of just goes in line with you just never know what you're going to see in the ocean. It's just every nook and cranny, especially in a place like Northern California, where there's just so much sea life, so much ocean-rich environment there. Everything's worth a second look. Everything's worth a little bit more time,
Shrek, my diving of late has improved out of sight, and do you know why?
No.
Because I picked myself up a copy of 99 Tips to Get Better at Spearfishing.
Wow. Is that why your hunting techniques have improved as well?
Not just my hunting techniques, my freediving, my breath hold, and my awareness.
Wow. You really are a Spearo 2.0.
Yes, that's right. I really am a Spearo 2.0, as per Chapter 7, I believe. Spearo 2.0.
And it's all thanks to
99 Tips to Get Better at Spearfishing. Now, where did I find it, you asked?
On Amazon.com.
That's right. So get on Amazon.com and check it out. But in all seriousness, it's a great book compiled from over 40 contributors. Absolutely fantastic, and you will improve your diving, guaranteed, if you read that book.
There's tips there from legends like Rob Allen and Chris Coates out of South Africa to Simon Tripp and some other Aussie guys.
Lots of Aussie guys. I think
guys.
there might even be some New Zealanders in there. Dwayne Herbert,
Darren Shields. We've got Cameron Kirkconnell.
A couple from myself there. I put myself in that same league.
Yeah,
so
look,
there's a couple
Turbo's
from me.
ones we glazed over them. And look, I often took 10 of Turbo's tips and punched them into one, so you get good value for money. Find it cheap on Amazon.com. 99 tips to get better at spearfishing. All right, let's move on. Hunting technique. What's your favourite hunting technique, Dan, and how do you apply it effectively? It's probably a big question when you've travelled as much as you have. But I mean, pick whatever location you want and maybe talk about a specific species and how you've sort of used it.
I think I would definitely have to talk about yellowtail amberjack, or in some places known as yellowtail, kingfish, kingy, tail, I think they call it here. No, you can spear yellowtail in Southern California, all the way down through into Baja, and the Sea of Cortez, which I've speared them in all those locations. And when I started this world tour that I'm on, and I've been on this for about a year now, but when I started it, the first place I chose to go to was New Zealand for a lot of reasons, but one of which was I had terrible luck with yellowtail. I was doing very, very poorly with it in the States. I would take shots that I shouldn't have, not take shots that I should have. And yellowtail really are not a difficult fish, but at the time it was a huge amount of buck fever, and I was very, very excited and very skittish too. And when I got to New Zealand, I just got, eventually I just started getting so many opportunities on yellowtail that I had to start saying, okay, nothing under 15 kilos, 33 pounds,
Yeah.
like that's, and telling that to people here, it's really, really, really funny too, looking at their faces, like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, shoot. And even when I got to Western Australia and I was diving with Barry Paxman, it was nothing under 20 kilos with him. And so it's cool. But anyway, as far as the fish and hunting tactics, really, I mean, I got to New Zealand in late February of 2016, and didn't know anyone, but started making contacts, got my videos, my pictures out there, and led me some other people, and I started learning all the species. But I was there mainly to spear yellowtail, and that is their main game fish. Yeah. And nowhere in the world gets yellowtail as big as New Zealand. Nowhere in the world, despite the fact that you can shoot them literally around the world, and I have now.
Yep.
With Australia and South Africa. But with yellowtail, I would say one of the biggest things really is just being in the right place. Not even the timing, not even what you're wearing. It really is a matter of, and it's something I really believe in, is just go that extra distance, that much further away than anyone else is going. And that's what I did. In New Zealand, I ended up getting a backpacker camper van, and Viking Kayak sponsored me after a few stories.
Wicked. Well, that's cool. I was going to ask you a bit about your kayak experience in New Zealand. I saw a lot of photos and videos, so cool.
It really was the dream. I mean, I like boat diving, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of prep, and although it's not popular, I really do enjoy diving solo sometimes,
Yep.
And in a place that I feel comfortable. One of my best dives that was in New Zealand, and I'll cover that later because it's a story in and of itself, but it was on a kayak, and there's such serenity to it. I mean, you're to the point, I feel silent out there. I feel more connected with the ocean. And you could even say like, oh, well, I'm even not even polluting the ocean, no gas or something if you really want to go crazy. But
yeah.
It's just, it really is a great way to get out there. I enjoy the extra exercise, for my upper body. And a lot of times I can launch places boats can't. I can get to places. But as far as the hunting technique for yellowtail, it really was just going out so much further than everyone else was. Picking a spot that just doesn't see other people, so it's already a good area, and launching the kayak, getting out to a spot that has the high current. There's a lot of current coming past, usually a pinnacle, has some deep water nearby it, and spending time kind of in that area and being very, very patient about it. But then once the yellowtail do come in, as most people know, they're very curious. Their curiosity is definitely a bit of their downfall. I have found bringing a shiner will work pretty well. A few times, actually, I probably wouldn't have gotten some if it hadn't been for that. And those help out quite a bit. But yeah, so getting out there, get the shiner in the water. when the yellowtail do come in, try to take a dive as quickly as I can, not looking at them. Yellowtail and a lot of other fish will look for your eyes and see where your eyes are focused, and that'll tell them how interested you are and how interested they want to be. So usually taking a dive in a direction that's kind of cut them off to be ahead of them. And once you get to that, I've definitely found aiming for the back of the pack, if you can, seems to hold the fish. Deeper down and to the back of the pack seems to have some of the deeper ones.
Okay.
One of the best examples of this, and if the viewers or if you guys get a chance, take a look at my YouTube channel, New Zealand Spearfishing New Zealand episode 2. I go into these 3 days at the Coromandel Peninsula, where I got a kayak from one of the locals, and I got to go out in that. And the first day, I ended up spearing a yellowtail, and a bronze whaler shark actually got a hold of it. And I got quite a bit of footage of him. And I was able to actually jump up into the kayak, grab my float line, and just yank real quick, and actually out of the mouth of the bronze whaler, threw it up into the boat, and I got footage of the bronze doing a 180, kind of trying to come back after me, but it was just had that little bit of freeboard away from him. So it was very satisfying. And even actually over dinner, I looked at my footage again. There was a moment that the bronze whaler came back, like 10 minutes later, and came, inches underneath my kayak. So it was a really cool moment. A second day there, I went out on a boat and scored a 15-kilo kingfish. They dropped me off at another spot. It really was just a perfect spot in so many ways. The Coromandel Peninsula sits between Great Barrier Island and the mainland. So there's a huge amount of current that gets pushed through there. And the area is known for big kingfish. And sure enough, we jump in, and I had to load my gun while there was an active vortex of kingfish underneath me.
Oh, wow.
Probably, as far down as I could see. So over 100. But the thing is that the one that I speared was 18.5 kilos. At the time was just barely my biggest fish, beating my white sea bass from San Diego.
Yeah.
I went back with 2 huge fish, and I ended up feeding a ton of people, which ended up becoming a huge. It kind of was where I developed these dinners that I put on.
Yeah.
Which even today and yesterday I've been doing huge sushi and sashimi dinners of yellowtail, which is great.
Oh, wicked.
But yeah, then that third day was probably my most memorable dive. And it said a lot about hunting yellowtail for me. I went out in the kayak again solo. Went to this pinnacle and figured out which way the current direction was coming from. You want to be
up current.
You want to be in where the current starts from before it hits something.
Yep.
It's really the best spot. And I was out there probably for 2 hours. Didn't see a thing. It was very, very boring. Even took a nap up in the kayak, and then then eventually I took a dive into this vortex, and that's what I wanted, that footage of diving into one, because there's just nothing like it. Being surrounded by that much tasty fish after you can see your car. It's not like going after tuna. Where you're ways out from shore. No, this is close to home. It was such a cool feeling, and I dove down to it. But as I got down towards the bottom of it, and everything's in slow motion. Your mind's in slow motion. And as I got down to the bottom of this vortex, there was just this monster, and I said, oh, that thing's got to be closer to 22, 23, maybe even 25 kilos. And I had to wait for this kind of in-between shot. There was just so many other yellowtail right on it. And those other ones would have been 20 kilos, no problem, or more.
Wow. But
I had to wait for this shot, and ended up getting it more or less between the pectoral and the dorsal fin at a downward angle, which was a really good shot. And I was using Reef Euro 120 in closed track. So I had a good amount of power through it, and I had a slip tip on it, which was also good. And so I punched the shot, and the kingy just dove hard, and I grabbed the line to go up, but it just pulled me down. I pulled into a wall. I kind of had to start again, and I was like, what the heck? That was weird, And I'm heading up towards the surface. So I wasn't really too worried at first because, my float line attached to the kayak, and it was a foolproof way in a sense that if I needed to, if a marlin came by, really I could have shot that.
Yeah.
But as I got up closer to the surface, I kept trying to put pressure on it because I didn't want him to reef me. And I started seeing, the rest of the vortex, and I was getting a bit more nervous. I got up in the kayak, and I had to actually hop up in the kayak to back paddle to keep him away from the nearby reef.
Oh wow!
My float line plus the shooting line would have been probably around 28, 29 meters. And that's not a depth I feel like diving with my heart rate up, from a fight and current, definitely. And with such a big fish and shark. So it was a lot of things were happening. A lot of things were going through my mind. I was solo, so I had to make some decisions. I would have liked to have landed the fish inside the water, but it wasn't an option. And And I hope that most Spiros are familiar with Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea, where the guy, he's kind of doing like a hand line on a marlin.
Yeah.
I did something similar to that, but sitting up in a kayak, secured in the center and grabbed the line and just started just heaving as much as I could. And the video footage was good. I was able to get good video for the whole fight
cool.
sequence, which was just exhausting. It took me about 10 or 15 minutes of just straining lineup, and then he would just rip it out of my hands. It was an incredible thing. And so it actually drew a couple other fishermen nearby. I told them to come, come try to drill lines here. I knew they were having, this was the third day they were watching me get kingfish. So I knew they weren't, they wanted to get in on the action. But no, they ended up just kind of staying nearby and watching me, in my fight. And yeah, I ended up getting the fish on board. And I thought, it was like, man, this thing's got to be 50 pounds at least, and it was such a good feeling when I finally got it up on the boat. I was so exhausted. Even my hand into its gills, into the gills, so I could get a hold of it. I just almost broke my hand. It was so painful. It was such a monster. And, so I paddled it back and I was able to weigh it, and it ended up weighing in at 35 kilos, 77 pounds.
Wow.
Quite a bit more than I thought it would.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was really, really great. And then I just did a whole bunch of sashimi for everybody that was there nearby, a bunch of the campers, a bunch of the locals and the rangers. And it was a really, it was great, telling the people about the day, telling them about spearfishing. What we see down there is New Zealand has a lot of spearfishers, and they have a great, I would argue New Zealand has one of the best spearfishing communities. Everybody talks, everybody kind of helps each other out a little bit. And I had a great time. I was able to get on with so many great divers there. I mean, Dwayne Herbert, Dave Mullins, Darren Shields, just to name a few. And they were all incredibly hospitable to me, hosting me and let me stay with them and teaching me a whole lot. Cool. And New Zealand really was just an absolute amazing trip. I would highly recommend anyone to go there, but just don't let too many people go there. Maybe we'll edit that part out. I don't want too many people pulling up New Zealand.
They're a good bunch of guys. There's a really good NZ Spearo Forum Facebook page. Very active on there. I'm a Kiwi myself, Daniel. Turbo's definitely a dirty Australian. But, So we've chatted to quite a few of the guys you mentioned. We've had Dwayne Herbert on the show and Darren Shields before. He was actually one of our very first guests. And, I really like some of those guys. Yeah. Dave competed over in Greece, I believe, end of last year, and they're highly competitive, very, very competent divers. So
we all love New Zealand, anyway. So,
well, no, real quick, actually, to add to that, because I actually ended up doing, I got to go down, I got to film Dwayne commercial Kinna and power diving.
Oh, cool.
In Stewart Island.
Yep.
So that was amazing, and with Darren, I was out with Darren the day he was teaching his youngest son. Griffin how to hunt snapper, which is the prize fish really in New Zealand. Yeah, they don't care if you get a 30 kilo kingy. Nah. If you get a 10 pound or a 20 pound snapper, they care. And with Dave, actually, I ended up writing and I still do. I write for the New Zealand Bayfisher magazine.
Okay.
I ended up writing and following Ian and Julian Hansford and Dave Mullins as they went to Greece and. Absolutely phenomenal divers. Dave ended up getting the largest fish of the competition, a 17.3 kilo dusky grouper, which he shot at 58 meters, 5'8".
Wow.
Just a typical Kiwi bloke, really. What's
wrong with you? Are you the?
I spent too long in Australia, Turbo.
Oh, mate.
No, those guys are friggin' legitimate athletes. They're very good at what they do.
They really are, and I gotta say one last credit to the Kiwis is
keep going, bro. I'm loving this.
No, it's a sense of humility. I mean, when I met Dave Mullins, I had no clue who he was. I thought he was just another Kiwi.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for days until I beat it out of him that he's like, oh yeah, I guess I have a few national records. Like, oh yeah, I guess I'm on the national team. Oh, I guess I did spear a world record striped marlin. Oh, I guess I'm gonna go to the stamp. I was like, fuck, dude, like, give me some straight answers here, so it's, no, it really was a great time.
Cool, man.
And then I'm not sure if you guys want to move to a different segment, but I could talk all day next about Australia, because that's where I went. And There was no shortage of adventures in Australia.
Far away, man. Tell us about some of the crappy Aussie guys.
Nah, come on. Let's stick to the show.
You didn't go spearing with turbo, so you probably had a good experience in Australia.
Oh, I've got a lot of exploits. I don't like to talk about them. Anyway, whatevs.
No, Australia was amazing. The first thing I was really impressed about with Australia, which was just the species list that you guys have kind of at your disposals in New South Wales as you kind of get further up there, and then Queensland. I've actually saved one of the stickers you get when you buy your license there. I plan on taking that back to the States and showing kind of some of the guys back in California how you guys measure your fish and whatnot. It's a very simple thing that will keep even the newest Spearo in California. You buy a license. It doesn't come with anything. You just get the license. You have to go find the booklet separate. But
yeah, I
really liked the measurement stick or the measurement sticker that you could just put on anything.
Yeah,
it shows you the fish, shows you how many of them they can take. But it was really exciting. New Zealand was great. I speared everything except for a boarfish. That was the only one I didn't get, or I guess a hapaca as well. But let's count that. But no, I mean, I get to New Zealand or I get to Australia and I look at the list and I'm like, oh man, just so excited, so frothed to get out there with everything. But I know it was good. I flew to Sydney, I went south first, down a bit further, about 4 hours south to Batman's Bay.
Oh, nice.
Did a little bit of diving there. Wasn't too great, to be honest, for the diving in the wintertime.
Yeah.
But a commercial urchin diver offered to take me out with him to Montague Island, and I got some phenomenal footage out there of the seals and just the sea life. Kind of, it was really, really cool. I actually didn't spear a fish at all, really, for the first. There's nothing I saw that I really wanted to take. So I didn't spear a fish at all for my first couple of weeks in Australia. I took a few crays and ate those up, and that made a good meal. But no, I quickly worked my way up to Kingscliff.
Yeah.
With a buddy up there and did 3 shore dives there 3 days in a row, and it was real good. Shot a mulloway on my first day out.
Wicked.
Got some pretty crazy, really, really cool fish. Very similar to a white sea bass in its behavior and its physical structure.
Yep.
Even was able to pull the odlets out of it.
Cool.
Which I don't know. I don't know where they went though, but they're out there somewhere.
They probably got stolen in South Africa.
I think my buddy still has them. No, and second day went out and went crazy on the crays out there. Went for tropical crays, and you guys have many different types, and I didn't realize that some are actually herbivores. So there was a lot of learning going on there, which I love that about going to a new area, learning all these brand new species and how they operate and what tastes good and what doesn't, and all these different things. It was amazing. I saw the largest crayfish I've ever seen. Largest lobster I've ever seen. It had to have been at least about 6 or 7 kilos.
Okay.
But it was in but this is one of those things where that voice in the back of my head wasn't a little voice. It was a loud voice that said, "No, stupid, don't go for that." It was, and I'm not joking. It was 10 meters down to the mouth of the cave, and then it was a couple meters into it, and then the cave ran kind of to your right then. So there was a little bit of light that would pierce through. It was a very strange cave, but it would go for another 10 meters, and it would just get skinnier and skinnier and skinnier. It was a very scary cave, but it had a lot of crayfish in it, so it couldn't really be ignored. But man, sitting there way at the back, and I had my dive light, my dive torch, and sitting there way at the back was a couple big ones, but just this real big. I think it must have been a tropical cray. A real big thing. I mean, it was probably a good 2 meters out of my reach.
Yeah, wow.
And I mean a good 2 meters to the end of its antenna. So that was a good day. And then the third day out, I went out diving with my buddy again, and we went out. Didn't really see too much. I kind of branched off on my own. My buddy was dealing with this other guy who was kind of new to spearfishing, and just kind of had to have been 30 meters away from me. I poked my head up. I see this huge dorsal fin. I immediately knew that was a humpback whale, and I just fin spun it as hard as I could. Swiveled my camera. And I film off of my gun primarily, but it's on a swivel, so I can essentially point the gun the exact opposite direction of the camera. Which getting any footage of whales with your spear in a shot wouldn't be a good move, And I took a dive, and it was two humpbacks, and I got very, very close. They looked at me, and I looked at them, and it was incredibly magical. It really was just an incredible experience, and the trip kind of progressed from there. I ended up making contacts, and from one person to another, and his mom would tell someone's aunt, would tell someone's grandparents, and that really became a big part of my trip, is learning how to network as quickly and as much as possible. That's how I've been able to do this, and I'll go over that more later. But I ended up diving into the Sunny Coast, Sunshine Coast, and then in Noosa Head, I got to get out with the Horny Spiro boys, and they were a hell of a lot of fun. Those guys, they were a ton of fun. Billy Keenel in particular, a shout out to him. I had a couple days out, and this was after several months of spearfishing, and it usually being me was, for whatever reason, was the one getting the fish. I went out with this guy, and we got to our spot, and I felt bad. There was a guy fishing, not 100 meters away or so, maybe even closer, so he could see us. And we jump in the water, and almost immediately, we both dive down. The school of kingies comes in. Billy's a bit closer though, and he pops a shot, comes up with easily a 15-kilo kingy. Yeah. And then a few minutes later, so we just throw it out on the boat. A few minutes later, he goes back down again and ends up shooting. I think next came a greasy cod or an estuary cod. I can't remember what. I don't want to get the name wrong. I know there's one you're not supposed to shoot. This was the one you were, and it was a big sucker, and he put his shot in and came up with that, threw that up to the boat, and then I think I shot a mangrove jack. He said it was good size, but it couldn't have been more than 5 kilos, and it just didn't feel good looking at his fish, But then he just went and got and he ended up shooting more than a 10-kilo. No, it was much more than that. Maybe a 12 or 13-kilo mulloway. Okay. And wow. Yeah, and then threw that on the boat, and then he goes, right, well, I think we should head in now. And I'm like, yeah, let's call that a day. That was pretty good, And the fisherman guy is still there, just the same, still doing nothing. And we drove back, and it was a ton of fun. And I ended up going from there to Bundaberg, drove with my buddy Matt, and got out meant to go out to the Bunker Islands, but went out to some closer spots and shot my first Spanish mackerel, and then saw my first bull shark, and then shot another Spanish mackerel, and one of the other younger Spiros. This is a good example of when you're spearfishing pelagics, teamwork really becomes essential. Not so much with reef species; they can be a solo game, but with pelagics, it's very easy to have a tear out or have a shark come around, or you may spear a fish and that may attract the other ones. And in this case, I'd popped a shot, and the guy went down to shoot one as well, but he didn't quite like the look of the shot that was on mine, and he put another spear into it just to be safe. And I pulled the fish up, and it was fine the whole way up, and I hand on it, and it made a quick move, and my spear popped out just at the last second. So I would have lost that fish for sure, and so it was real good. Awesome. And then from there, I went up to Gladstone and met up with Dave Jensen and John Peningully. And I stayed with them for about a week. And John Peningully is a stellar diver. He holds the world record on wahoo and dogtooth. Two of the most prized fish, really. What a rush! But he shot them one day after the other two, and really cool, really humble guy. And he went out of his way to show me quite a few things, and really helped me out there on the reef. It was these were kind of the first days of me diving coral. And this is, at the southern end of the Great Barrier Reef at this point, if I understand it correctly. And it was a ton of fun out there. The first day we went out, I call it my most epic day of diving, because on the way out there were humpback whales. So they stopped, and I hopped in just to see if they'd come by the boat. And who did they? It was they came right up to me. I went to make a dive on it. And I'm used to dealing with sharks, not really a problem with sharks at all. I've seen several great whites. I actually saw one this past weekend. Wow. I've seen bull sharks and bronzies come around. But I've never quite, mentally prepared for whales. It's a weird one. I never planned on getting that close. I was kind of the dog that chased the car, and then he got the car, and he's like, oh, shoot. And so they came towards me, and they made this huge turn. Yep. And it must have been a calf on top of a mother, and then another 20 meters down must have been a male. Yep. It's a big one. But even the mother was huge too. But they went to come straight at me, and I had to make the decision if I wanted to go over their back, which I could have ended up, actually on the whale's back, or pull off to the left. And I pulled off to the left, and as I did that, I think it was the right move. The mom kind of swung her right pectoral fin through the water like a right hook, like a very slow motion but very, very strong right hook, and it came within inches of me, and it was incredible. Though I don't know if it was supposed to be a warning or if it was supposed to be a high five, and I just missed the moment maybe. I don't know, but it was very well worth it. And after that, I speared my first coral trout, and I got good footage of that. I was very, very grateful for that, and got some really cool footage of some sea snakes, and that was awesome. And then speared some Spanish mackerel and had some bull sharks come in, which John's been attacked for. He's a bull shark got a hold of one of his I think it was his left arm, and did quite a bit of damage there. Yeah. So he has he has wisdom that I don't quite have yet, and hopefully, well, anyway. So I speared this first Spanish mackerel, and I yelled at him. I was like, hey, take the next one, because they were right there. And he goes, no, and he knew it. And he was right. A second later, a bull shark came in, so we pulled him back, and I actually ended up getting my my wetty flasher clipped either by a Spanish mackerel or by a bull shark after that.
Oh, wow.
So I lost that, but yeah, that happens. It wasn't cabled. It was a monofilament one.
Yep.
My next flasher and the one I still have is a cable one, stainless steel. So if they do decide to do that, at least I'll have a little more heads up. But
cool.
From there we went and we dove, and I ended up having this amazing dive on. Had to have been a couple hundred golden trevally, stacked so tight that when I made the dive, at the beginning of the dive, I was saying like, oh, I better get one of these. But when I got to the face, I said, I better double shot. And that's what I aimed for, and that's what I got. And man, they took me under so quickly. I had a hard time equalizing.
Yep.
Only in about 20 meters or 15, 20 meters of water or so, though. Wasn't too deep. I think we ended it somewhere after that. I think I got some tusk fish as well and some crayfish as well earlier in the day. So there was so much food to be had and so many things happening. It was just absolutely amazing. I was absolutely just over the moon about it. And and then after that I headed up to Cairns and did some spearing up there. Shot some cool stuff. Had a close call with a bull or two, and it was a good time.
Awesome.
And then I guess the end then of my Australia was I went over to Western Australia.
Ooh.
And really had the privilege and the honor of diving with Barry Paxman. I think every Spearo pretty much knows who he is. Doesn't need much of an introduction. I was only able to get up 2 dives with him, but both dives were incredibly productive. I ended up shooting a 30 kilo, or I estimated a 30 kilo Simpson fish, and got great footage of it. But it just dragged me into this cave and then tore the line. I ended up getting my spear back somehow. I went back down. It was just a spear in the hole, and that was that. And I finished the day out with a 20 kilo Samson fish, and Scott was there, and he got to did a little footage for it, which was just great. And then the second time I got to go out with him, I reckon it was probably the best single footage I've ever gotten in pristine blue water. About 20 kilo plus Samson fish came in. I already shot one the day before, so there was no need for me to take another. And so I dove to get the footage sake, and then I saw that a second half of the school was coming in. Again, another 20 kilo plus, but they were yellowtail. Like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then this extremely long yellowtail I saw, and it was a big one too, and it was just too close. And so I quickly ran my hand up the gun and shot it. Probably 2 or 3, maybe 2.5 meters. And it was a very close shot, went straight through the gill plates, and didn't give it any line, no float line, just on the reel gun. Just that's what Barry was telling me to do. Barry is very old school, and I have a lot of respect for that man. And he's got, I would argue he's got the coolest spearfishing boat that I've been out on, since I've been diving around the world here.
Right.
And it's got a little window in the bottom, so you can see where you're going and what's underneath you, and it's very cool. But
Really?
But yeah, it's a really, really cool thing. No, we shot some WA jewfish, which are endemic to Western Australia, and that was fantastic. Yeah, and a few others. I think we got some maybe it was tusk fish or something like tusk.
Oh, I know the ones. What are they?
Bullchin groper.
Bullchin groper. Yeah, is that the one you got?
Yeah.
They get tusk fish over there as well. They call them blue bone though. The
Blueies.
yeah. So this.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Hey, blue bone.
Okay.
It was amazing, and I ended up going up to Exmouth after that, and wasn't able to get on too much good spearfishing up there, but I got a lot of good footage. I even actually got about a half hour of footage with an olive sea snake, and now remember, folks, all sea snakes are venomous. I looked it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I've out of all the animals in the ocean, the one that I'm most fascinated with still is sea snakes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's only in certain places I can go get the footage and check them out, but. But this one sea snake, I went right up to him, and I've seen other guys handle them before, and they handle them very calmly, and the snake responds calmly. But if you freak out, the snake kind of will freak out and come at you a little more. But no, I brought the camera right up to this snake, and it seemed pretty interested in me, so it kind of just lazily started following me. So I kept ahead of it, but it did that for 15 minutes. It just kept following me. It was this really cool time, and then when it stopped following me, I'd follow in. It was just absolutely amazing watching this snake do basically what a spearfisher does. The snake would go to a spot that had some rocky little caves and little spots for things to be hiding. It would stick its nose in and then go to the next spot and the next spot, and it was really cool. There's no other animal, not even close, that I've seen that hunts like a sea snake does. Out in the open, just without a care in the world. Very, very, very cool thing. And then yeah, I guess I'll just finish off the trip here. I went to I talked with Jean-Pierre Jordan when I was in Australia and got an invitation to go to South Africa, and I decided I wanted to keep going westward around the world, so I could say I've been around the world for this trip.
Yeah.
And some very unique diving out there. Flew in and Richards Bay, which is on the east side. It's about probably about like 500 or 600 k south of Mozambique, the Mozambique border. And I spent a lot of time in Cape Vital, which is also the stomping ground of Rhode Island, where he started out of when he was a ranger, actually, back at Cape Vital.
Yep.
And it was honestly some of the hardest diving I've done. The oceans out there at Cape Vital are incredibly unpredictable. Sea sharks every day, plenty of bull sharks. Got charged a couple times out there.
Wow. Saw
the second white I'd ever seen out there, which is a pretty funny story, actually.
Yep.
And saw tons of dolphins and sea turtles, but you could go 5 hours, and I did. I actually went 5 hours one time without seeing a single fish on a reef, single game for a fish worth shooting. And it was on that day a 25 kilo GT just came right up, gave me a broadside before it went to dip. And I just quickly hit the camera and punched a shot, and no float line. I was able to. It was a gill plate shot as well, so it clamped the gill plate. Which, if you're close enough, I really do recommend. On a lot of these game fish, if you're close enough, and I either get a stone shot, which is obviously always the best, but a gill plate shot is also good. I mean, it prevents the fish from breathing a little bit more, so it can't fight as hard as it say would normally. Which allowed me to fight it without giving any line. I mean, otherwise a 25 kilo GT would have just dragged me. It would have had its way with me.
Buried you and bent your spear. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but instead it was really good. I got some great footage bringing them up, and ended up shooting my first wahoo out there as well, which was a very easy wahoo to shoot. I was a little disappointed, but then I realized that was just a fluke. It was never going to be that easy again. But no, there really is no fish that fights like a wahoo. I definitely have to agree with that. The way they just spin your reel off is outstanding, and it was really cool. And I drove a lot with Jean-Pierre's dad, Chris Jordan, and that guy is he, like Barry Paxman and like Tommy Botha in South Africa and even Rhode Island as well. That old school generation. Terry Moss as well. Got to add him to that list. Yeah. They've seen so much spearfishing. They've been so many places that they just become. I mean, at least from what I've seen with Barry and Chris and Tommy Botha, they're just such hard divers. And I mean, it was incredible trying to keep up with this guy. The amount of pace that he set was absolutely incredible. So did a couple. I did about a month and a half there, and saw a lot of fish. Saw my second white. It was almost a nonchalant event. The white came in underneath me and him, and I was like, that's a funny looking bronze. Nope. Bull. Nope. That's a white. Wow. Then he kind of dipped out again real quick, and I just popped my head up to Kuss, and I was like, hey, Kuss, is that a white? Yo, Daniel.
Yo, that's a good accent. Well done.
Yeah, well, depending on the country, I mean, I can hold the accent, pretty well if I've been around it for a little while. But yeah, it was so fun. We just kept diving, and that's really I mean, everybody has their own way they want to deal with sharks. I completely respect that. And this past weekend, I was diving Cape Agulhas with 5 other guys. It was the largest group I'd ever been with, and a couple of them had only been diving for about a year. And on one dive, there was probably anywhere from 4 to 5 meter great white. I couldn't quite tell his size because he was moving away from me. But I saw that white when I was down at about 18 meters on the bottom.
Wow.
So he was going the other way. He wasn't interested in me. I don't think he even saw me, to be honest, or I hope he didn't see me. And I hit the surface and told the other guys, and they all jumped for the boat. But I was like, it's no worries, And I know quite a few other people, that have been around that believe that as well. That if you act like you're afraid of the shark can sense that. It senses your heart rate, senses the way that you are in the water. Versus if you act kind of like a dog. If you act like you're the alpha. Good chance that they'll pull away, and it's at least been my fortune so far. I haven't dealt with any of the sharks in Indonesia, though. I hear they're a bit of a different story.
Yeah, we're about to produce a 101 Sharks episode. Funny, we should be talking about it, and we've been talking to a few sort of characters. One of the guys we've talked to is a guy named Rennie now over there in South Africa, and he was attacked by a great white, and his stories about him are friggin' crazy. He's not a fan of them at all. Thoroughly unpredictable is kind of the message I got from his thing. Like, we've talked to a few people that have dived with big white sharks, and the more you kind of look into their behaviour, the more puzzled you become in some ways. But yeah, awesome to hear your experience. Joining us today, spearapparel.com. That's right, guys. The team at Spear have put together a special just for listeners of the Noob Spearo podcast. You can save 10% on their full range of apparel and the new Novo wetsuit. Head over to spearapparel.com and use the code Noobers. How do you spell that, Turbo?
Noobers.
Thanks, Noobers. So head on over to spearapparel.com and use the code Noobers to save 10% and get into a comfy wetsuit. I guess getting now to the next part of the show, we've heard some awesome stuff about your stories and adventures, Dan. I wanted to move into Veterans Vault, where we can sort of dial in on some sort of specific actionable information for our audience to sort of draw on for their own traveling adventures. So one thing I really wanted to ask was, when you're flying into different countries, what sort of equipment do you always keep, and what do you replace on the ground in your new country? And that'll do for starters, I guess.
Yeah, no, gear travel is an expensive lesson to learn, I found out. I started the trip with 3 spear guns and a bunch of stuff, and my lead weight, actually, which turns out is not a hot idea, depending on how you're doing things. I eventually ended up shipping back the other 2 guns. If you want to do some sort of a world, something like what I've done, traveling around the world or going far out, definitely, if you can, try to talk to some Spearos in the area. They can provide you with lead weight. That's a huge thing. Pick one gun. Like I said, I'm using a Reef Euro 120 in closed track. I can set it up with my reel quickly. I can set up a breakaway quickly, or I can attach the float line to the gun itself.
Yep.
3 distinctly different methods. I can add a flopper to it or a slip tip. I brought 3 spears with me for this trip: 2 floppers and a slip tip.
Okay.
When I got to the raw balance store in Durban, he straightened them out for me and noted how bent they were. And I said, well, yes. After this one, no, but I'm very impressed with how long they did survive, how long they did last, and how I was able to still, punch through fish with them. But as far as gear you bring, minimalism, really, it's pack exactly what you need, and then weigh it, and pair that to your airline, which is something I did not do. I paid, I think it was $200 or $230 when I went to go to New Zealand. Then when I went to leave New Zealand, I paid another couple $100 to ship a lot of those guns back. And I didn't pay anything to go to Australia. But then when I went to go from Western Australia to a bit more again, because it was a different airline and I hadn't done my research. So it really was a bit of laziness there that I found out.
Yeah, look, I guess so with your spear gun and your shafts, are you putting them in a bit of plumber's tubing, or how are you sort of carrying it?
Yeah, I did a post on this a while ago. I'll try to link that as well to you guys. You can show pictures as well. But the rough description is this. I use a sport tube. They're their largest model. And the thing's pretty big. It weighs about 5 kilos. The tires on it went out a while ago. A buddy of mine in Bundaberg actually put big, thick tires on it. because I was just dragging. The tires seized up, and I was just flattening the tires. I was like, whatever, got to keep going. Yeah. So when I'm traveling, it's a 90-liter backpack that has my laptop, my cameras, my clothing, my medical kit, everything else in it. And I strongly recommend bringing a medical kit and knowing the medical kit.
Okay.
I was called on to save lives in South Africa, not in the water after the car crash, but was very happy I had that.
Oh,
and it's just as likely, that somebody slips with a knife, I would say would be the most likely thing, or the boat hits a wave too hard and somebody lands on a spear. I've almost seen that happen.
Yep.
So definitely very, very worthwhile keeping there, if even if you just got a couple Band-Aids now. And but anyway, everything fits into the sport tube. My fins, my dive bag, my float line. I try to shed the weights when I can. I was a little bit sad to have to shed my weights when I left Australia though, because they were specialty weights. They were actually shaped like grenades. Which
you can buy that mold. Actually, you can buy that at our sponsor spearfishing.com.au. You can buy the mold on there, so you can sort of make them yourself anywhere. There's actually been a few things we've talked about. So you got the sports case. What brand sports case is that? Sorry.
It actually is called the Sport 2. That is its brand.
Right.
Imagine it's like two cups or two halves of a tube.
Yep.
That will slide together. So you can extend them to any length you want. And right now, actually, as I go from Cape Town to Dubai in a few days here, the maximum size they allow before they'll start charging you is 150 centimeters, which, as it happens, my spear gun and my slip tip, when I bend my slip tip spear, will fit into that, but my floppers will not. So it brought me to a funny situation where I was actually about to cut off the ends, and I was going to use like smaller spears when I got back to the States. But I ended up working out a deal with Tommy, and he's going to take them off my hands as he builds me a new gun, a new reverse roller. Ooh, yeah, so it's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm very excited. Later, more to be on that later as he finishes it up here. As we speak, he's actually finishing it up, which is nice. But no, I mean, traveling on airplanes, it really is an absolute pain. I mean, I can't stress enough. I mean, if at all it's possible, and you have a friend in another country, ask to use their gun when you get there. It's the gun especially is so long. It's very, very difficult. And that's what takes up like the most amount on it. I've lost a lot of gear on this trip, and I've mailed a lot back home. I really am just down to the absolute basics of what I've got, and that's really just what you need. I use a small float. It's I think it's like a 20-liter maybe, by Pro Blue. You can plate it with your mouth. It's not the cheapest you can get, but it's close.
Yeah. I know the one. I use the same one, I think, but I think mine's maybe 15-liter. But that's pretty much my go-to.
15 liters, yeah. JBL makes an almost identical one. I actually bought the second one and had the Adreno guys at the Adreno guys at Sydney help me rig it up.
Nice.
No, it's good. It's nothing I want to go shoot dogtooth with, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But no, I mean it does the job. Especially for filming, it's great. So I can spear a kingy and have that breakaway go out, and then get the camera in there and not worry about the fish reefing and then having to deal with all that mess. So it's a really good little setup. Other than that, everything else just kind of fits in the tube. Traveling, just every time you have to make one more travel, you have to go from A to B, does become a bit of work. And again, when I was in New Zealand, I had the backpacker camper van, and that was just a dream. That I have to say, I got the most out of New Zealand because if I went back and if I did 5 months in Australia with a backpacker camper van, I think it would have been a much more even than I already was blessed to get to spear.
Yeah, nice. Okay, cool. All right. So for guys that are looking to do a bit of travel themselves, and they, so you've already sort of talked about visiting the airline and sort of seeing what their rules and restrictions are. And we've talked about the sports tube case and kind of minimizing equipment and borrowing it when and where you can. What things don't you compromise on? Like what gear is absolutely going in there? I mean, are you particular with your mask and snorkel? I mean, your wetsuit, what are you what's your guidelines for that?
What do you mean? As far as how much gear I have to be able to bring?
Nah, so like you were saying,
what can't you travel without? I think.
There's
plenty that you can sort of shed, but what are the necessities that you wouldn't leave home without?
So first aid kit. I was interested in maybe what you want in that specifically, but also your spearfishing equipment.
Okay. Oh yeah. Well, in a minute here, I'll grab my med kit so I can actually look at it and go through it with you. But as far as the spear gun, I mean, having everything as together as possible is good. I mean, like I said, my rife can be a real gun, it can be a breakaway, it can be a float line and whatnot, and that all helps out.
Yeah.
I think honestly, I have a hard time imagining more gear or shedding gear at this point because my last flight here, I absolutely shedded everything that wasn't 100% essential. And I would say, you know what, because I have no love for the airlines. I have absolutely no love after what I've been through. Especially Doha. Oh, I've got nothing good for them. Okay. But anyway, had to get that jab in.
Yeah, no, it's done. Good.
One trick that occurred to me as I was 10 kilos over suddenly because they had this new restriction. Barry was a huge help. Barry helped me out and helped me get where I had to do and do what I had to do. And it occurred to me, because I was still several kilos over. So I'm not a big guy, I'm not way too much, but next to me could be sitting some huge sumo wrestler, and then they charge him the same ticket price. Well, that's not right. I said, well, hold on. All this clothing, that's weight. I can wear all those clothes on the plane. So, so I boarded the plane with my biggest cargo pants and pants on underneath that, and a couple shirts and a couple my jacket and my thermal lines, and I boarded it with as much as I could. When I do go to board the plane, though, I check my sport tube. I usually I check my backpack, and the biggest thing in the backpack is I have a huge laptop to do my work, to do my all my work on and whatnot. So that takes up a lot of space. Yep. If it wasn't for the laptop and whatnot, I could get away with a much smaller backpack that I could probably just check in, and that would definitely save me a bit of money. But a lot of airlines are actually pretty decent about letting you have 2 check-ins. I know with Emirates right now, they allow me 2 check-ins for economy class, 2 check-ins, both of up to 23 kilos each, and that's of 150 centimeters. So it's actually pretty generous. But I mean, if you want to bring some big tuna gun, you're not so likely. And I hate to say it, and this is why I'm actually getting, or one of the reasons I'm getting the reverse roller from Tommy. Part of the reason is because I bounced a spear off of a tuna this past weekend, and I'd like a little more power. But the other reason is the length. A roller or a reverse roller is going to be much shorter and give you more, if not, more power really than a traditional spear gun. And that reduced amount of length is huge. I mean, it's good in the water too. You can talk about how good it is to swivel it in the water, maneuvering in the kelp. It's good for that too. Rollers have their drawbacks when it comes to little parts breaking and trying to load them as quickly for sure. But for the travel sake, I do wish I had done this trip with a roller. It would have saved me a hell of a lot of headache. I wish I traveled. I mean, I've easily spent $600 or $700 just in luggage fees that I could have avoided. And you really don't run into any trouble when I go to declare it at the airports and when I go into different countries. That I say, what is that BS that I say? No, it's I say snorkeling, freediving, and fishing equipment, or underwater equipment is a very good. Underwater fishing is specific. Nobody can say that you're lying. Probably don't hold me to this. Don't call me from any airports. And then the only place I know of that you can't travel with a spear gun, Dave Mullins ran into this, is I'm not sure if it's all of China or just Hong Kong, but he went to go through China, and they took it very, very seriously. Yeah, right. And actually I myself have something I can't take with me now that I would like to. A very interesting piece of gear that each country has different boat setups and different slight gear adjustments. But South Africa has a different policy on sharks than ethically than especially California say would. If you kill a shark because you don't want the shark there, people would frown at you quite heavily, and with good reason. But South Africa kind of plays by different rules. And one thing I saw in some of the floats here, or the float flashers, was these two tubes that were sticking out of this like foam. It was just a hard foam they just bought at a store. They made it themselves. But these like little metal tubes, each had a .357 round in it. Yeah. And all you do is, and they made it themselves with a little bit of hose piping in there. And so a shark comes around and they put it on the end of their spear, on any spear they can use it on. Yep. And they can pull the shot off that way, and they can use it that way. So Unfortunately, it's not something I'm going to be able to bring with me. It's still got a 357 round in it, and I feel like they would frown upon that.
Yeah.
Well, pretty much everywhere that I'm going.
Yeah. Well, they count as a firearm because as soon as you put it on the end of a spear gun and the tip impacts the primer, it's actually a proper bullet, and you've now got a firearm. So yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, that's actually a fairly common practice. It's just not talked about very much for good reason. But yeah, no, that's interesting. Okay, so what else is in your dive bag? So you got a mask and snorkel. What mask and snorkel are you using, and do you take them with you?
Yeah. Oh no. Absolutely. I mean, my core dive gear is what comes with me. My fins, my custom wetsuit.
Yep.
I keep the actual belt itself though. It's the rubber belt with its clips, and specifically, and I highly recommend a quick release weight belt. I've been using it since I started. It's never fallen off accidentally, but in the event of me needing to ditch my gear, I simply just kind of smack it to one side. And it will completely come off. It's very, very good. Josh, the owner of Neptonic Systems, actually helped me do that once upon a time back in the day.
Okay.
But no, I mean, my as far as my mask goes, my mask I actually bought some 6 years ago off of Amazon. It's just no brand. I mean, it was like $20.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's simple, but it works. I mean, geez, you look at Barry Paxman's mask. That guy's rocking an Indo, big old wide frame. I couldn't resist even doing some pictures with it. The thing's ridiculous, but he makes it work for him.
Yeah.
It really is what works for you. I've used. Eventually, I will have to start using another mask, especially one that has a GoPro mount on it, as that's how I'd like to start doing some more of my filming. But no, it's a larger mask. It's not low volume whatsoever. But that's what I've become used to. It gives me a good field of view. I'm not blocked out really at all.
Yeah, cool.
And I like having that extra field of view. It's a very, very simple one. And I can't remember what brand my snorkel would be, but your snorkel, of course, should always just be a tube. It shouldn't have some fancy strainer thing on it. No, it should just be a semi-flexible rubber tube. It should feel comfortable in your mouth.
Yeah.
All my gear is incredibly worn and incredibly basic. I would say the only thing in my gear that's maybe a bit nicer than the rest is I use C4 Red Falcon 100% carbon fins.
Okay.
I made the switch from plastic to carbons about a year and a half ago, and it is good. I like it. But for me personally, with my gear, it needs to be simple and it needs to not break. And I know that sounds easy. But I mean, I've used other guns. I've used some of the pipe guns, some of the cheaper ones before when I was in San Diego, and the trigger mechanism would jam or something would happen to it, or if it got hit against the side of the boat, it would dent. It would put a serious dent in. And I do like wood guns for that sake. I'm traveling from New Zealand, Australia, and South Africa. You definitely see a majority of pipe guns, carbon fiber or aluminum guns. So naturally, the guy's got to give you some grief for carrying around a wood gun, but I really like the sturdiness of it. I like it as a filming platform. I like it as a spear as well. I know that when I get if I get bashed up against the rocks, if it falls out of the bag, somebody kicks it on the boat, I never know what kind of boat I'm going on to next. Somebody gives me an offer on a boat. They say that they'd like me to join them, and I say thank you, and I offer to do everything I can while I'm on there. But you never really know what the setup is, and that's a big thing, getting out there with other guys on the boat and making sure that your gear is where you need it, and not getting in the way of theirs. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a compelling point you make. So I'm pretty happy to wrap up equipment there for your Veterans Vault and traveling. I did want to ask you a little bit more about networking and how you managed to build relationships with Spearos in these places you've been to, and kind of maybe some practical advice for other guys wanting to replicate some of your exploits.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I started my Adventureman Dan Facebook and YouTube really with this idea. I figured if I could make somewhat of a known name for myself, that I could put a reputation behind that.
Yep.
And then from that reputation, that I'd be able to go out and dive with guys. The NZ Spearo Forum for New Zealand, obviously their Facebook page, that was instrumental to say the least for me spearing there. I was putting posts out. It really does come down to you have to put yourself out there as far as you can, and sometimes that means some of the keyboard warriors saying some things about you, or just not getting replies back. Definitely, it's not always a guarantee that you're going to get out with people. It depends incredibly on the area. If you post that you've never been spearfishing before and you're looking to go out with somebody in say San Diego, you may have a hard time finding someone, but if you do that, say in New Zealand, there'd probably be a few guys that would say like, "Hey, I'll take you. I'll show you the ropes." So for other guys looking to replicate, kind of what I've done and get out with a lot of people, it really just does come down to just being a good bloke. I mean, I don't really know how else to say it. It's I do a lot of networking. I message a lot of people. The other kind of funny advice is compliment their fish pictures. There is a huge sense of pride. What you spear, there's a huge sense of pride. You had to work for it. You saw it. There's a huge emotional investment. My biggest fish, for sure. If somebody says like, "That's the best fish I've ever seen," hey, do you want to go spearfishing sometime? I'm pretty inclined to say yes at that point. And if that's so, and sometimes, with certain people, it's not the same. I know, for instance, even back when I was in New Zealand, I knew eventually I'd get to Western Australia. And I knew that I wanted to dive with Barry Paxman, but I knew he didn't know me.
Yep.
And so I talked with when I went diving with Darren Shields, with everybody I could, try to get a foot in the door. And if you can, that's really great. It's awesome when somebody can say like, "Hey, there's this guy. He's heading this way. Give him a lift." But I was very fortunate. I was posting like I always do. I like to make stories and show the stories, I guess, from spearfishing wherever I go. And I noticed one of the likes was from Barry Paxman, and I was like, all right, well, this is as good a time as any, and I just sent him a message, and just kind of laid out, how it was. Hey, I'm a guy from San Diego. I write for a couple I've written for a few spearfishing magazines, and I really love what you've done. I really love what you're seeing you in One Fish Legends and things like that. And
good DVD.
And I'd love to get out with you. And you never really know kind of what response you're going to get. It's pretty tough. But in Barry's case, he picked me up from the airport like 12 at night. It was fantastic.
Oh, what a good
and
play.
you really can't ask that. Some guys just go out of their way, and other guys you just have a spot on the boat. So you really have to be ready for anything. Another huge way that I've been able to do this, and I do get asked that quite a bit, is how are you affording to go spearfishing for a year around the world?
Yeah.
It turns out your kidneys, if they're clean, are worth like $40,000. So that's a good way to start. Those people that have dove with me and have been around me a little bit know drink at all. I never have, and I don't smoke and or do anything else. So that kind of saves quite a bit of money right there. Not buying beer. You'd really be surprised how much people will spend in a year. I know there's an Australian, that I'm talking to right now. So
mate, I'm cringing here. yeah. Mate, but I'm a 70 kilo lightweight, so like 2 beers and I'm gone. So it doesn't really worry me. It's Shrek over here that can.
It's 8:30 in the morning, Daniel. He's ready to have a beer now.
Tonguing for one.
Just he loves a good VB first thing in the morning.
Shut up. Sorry, mate.
But good insight, good cultural insight there too, Daniel, about Australians and drinking. So well done.
Australians are a lot of fun. I'll tell you, if you want a crazy night out, Aussies know.
Definitely.
But no. I've always had money saved up. I've always been working hard and not going out, not spending it on frivolous things if I could help it. And that was basically I saved up a lot of money. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with couch surfing.
Yep.
It's a website, kind of like Facebook. You make a little profile. And it's meant for travelers or people that want to host. And, basically, if you have a house, say, I've hosted probably 10 or 12 people in San Diego, and that helped build up a reputation for me on this website because you write references.
Yeah, nice.
And so from there, there are a lot of options out there. I stay in hostels. I'm in a hostel right now, and I'm very blessed at the moment to have a room by myself, but it's really not like that very often. I had some guy from the UK coming in at 4:00 in the morning, waking us up, and then as soon as he hits the bed, was able to sleep and snore loud enough to keep us all awake. So it's not easy. I try to make my trips and my adventures look as all fun and no work, but the truth is a whole lot goes into it.
Yep.
Sometimes it does not feel worth it. I gotta say, sometimes it's you come back, you've got no fish, you spend a bunch of money on gas, for the person, which you have to do. You have to.
Yeah.
That's another huge thing. Is your boat etiquette has to be on point. You have to be there on time, willing to help out with whatever's going on. Always listening to the captain, whose ever boat it is. You're willing to take your turn at the boat. Being a good diver when you're in the water. Not trying to snake his fish and take a fish when it's coming in for him.
Yeah.
I always try to do a little bit of footage and get some pictures of their boat. Everybody likes to see pictures of their boat. It's their baby. That's that's their precious, so
Yeah,
that's
man.
a big thing. And then obviously paying for gas, and it's more than gas. So you're paying for the wear and tear on the boat. You're paying for anything else, and trying to clean the boat after is a huge deal. So kind of all these things, balling them up together, that
Yeah, man.
that confidence to just kind of go out and put yourself out there and let people know, hey, I'm coming to this area, trying to give them a little bit of a heads up. Would anybody like to spear? I'd really like to do this area. And I would say the last bit of advice on that I haven't dealt with too much in South Africa, because not too many people are trying to get here for spearfishing. There are good fish, though it is a tough country though. But no, is people's spots. If you look at the posts that I put, I like to say kind of where I'm at, and some of my posts will say Western Australia. Some of them will say maybe even Perth, but they will never say the beach or where I launched from.
Yeah.
Out of complete respect for the guys that I dive with. Those are their spots. Those are as far as I'm concerned, I would never go back to them if I didn't know them myself. I didn't find them myself. And really only in New Zealand was I able to go out and find my own spots, which were some of my best dives, though. Some of my best dives in the far Northland, getting monster crays and kingies, and those are good. But,
Yeah, cool.
but that would be my advice, though, for traveling around is get yourself out there. Don't be afraid of the naysayers. You really got to get yourself out there and compliment the fish pictures. That's so big.
Guys, head on over to penetratorfins.com. They are proud sponsors of today's Noob Spearo podcast. We're happy to announce a code you can use to save yourself $20 on any blade purchase. That's right, save $20, pump in the code Noob Spearo at checkout, penetratorfins.com. Save yourself some dough on some fins and get yourself some of the best fins going with $25 flat rate international shipping and a full international warranty. Larry's the man. Thanks, Penetrator. Cool, man. All right, let's. We've had a longer chat today. It's been really good, Dan. I want to move into sort of our final fast round. So this is the first time we've really introduced this new segment. It used to be called like 5 tips for new guys or whatever.
Fast 5 facts for noobs. Come on, mate.
We're just going to do Spearo Q&A though. Now it's way more blokey.
This was never run by me.
Nah, he didn't approve it. I just chucked it in there, Dan. So.
Oh, too bad. I wrote down 5 things.
Let's go with it. Our last ever fast 5 facts for noobs. Yes.
All right, that'll go well with the whippersnapper we've got in the background.
Yeah, sorry, mate. We're very professional. Some guy's mowing the lawn next door. It's killing me.
If it's all right with you, I'm just going to run through the 5, if that's okay.
Yeah,
That's
man.
the
Fire
best.
away. Go for it.
Okay. The first one I think you guys will appreciate, though. 5 things for new Spearos, trying to get into it, trying to learn what they can. Podcasts seem to hold the most direct information about spearfishing. So number 1,
Wow.
listen to Noob Spearo.
Ah, shit, you're coming back for round 2.
Compliment their podcast.
Oh, look at him. He wants a trip. You got it, Dan.
All right, mate. There's a bed here for you.
Number 2, just get out there. Do a road trip. Get as far away as you can. Don't worry about where the other guys are spearfishing. Don't worry about finding their spot. Go find your own spot X. I mean, I get on Google Maps. I just look. I mean, that's how I got my big kingfish. I looked at where was the furthest place in the Coromandel away from everyone else, and it works. So just get out there, get as far away as you can. Number 3 is dive knife. I see a lot of people have dive knives in different places. I really recommend that you have your dive knife somewhere on your hips, because your hand can always get it.
Yep.
So that way you can always reach for it with your left or your right hand.
Okay.
You never know what situation you're going to be in, and if you get tangled, which is a very easy way to. I know people that have died because of that. They've gotten tangled and dragged under or couldn't get up. So have your dive knife like at a spot easily, ready, accessible.
Yep.
Number 4, always chase something new. Challenge yourself out there. For me, it's about film, fish, and feasts. I love putting on these huge dinners. I mean, today I fed, and I'm not kidding with you. Some almost 20 South Koreans. They
Oh, wow.
they like fish. They like fish a lot. And,
Yeah, cool.
So for me, I'm trying to get my biggest fish on film, and then I'm also trying to feed the most number of people. That really excites me. I really get into that. And
Yeah,
then
wicked.
the last thing I'd recommend for new Spearos is mental preparation or mental visualization. I do a lot about that. I kind of create these situations in my head and think about how the fish would react, or whatever I'm hunting, or how a shark would react a lot of times. And it also helps a lot of times for identifying things. I know with Ling Cod, if you mentally visualize the old Ling Cod, it'll kind of appear magically almost, and that would help out. So, so the 5 things: listen to the podcast, just get out there, knife where you can always get it, always check something new, and mental preparation.
Oh man.
That's probably the best fast five we've had.
He was on.
You even recapped your own fast five.
I loved it. That was great, Dan. You can come back round 2. So, look, we're going to link up a hell of a lot of the videos you've chatted about in this, Dan, and some of the other equipment. I'll have that listed in the show notes. It'll be if people just search for Adventureman Dan at Noob Spearo, your interview will pop right up on Google. What else would you want our audience to come and have a look at, Dan? You're on YouTube. I'll link that up. Are you on Facebook?
Yes. Adventureman Dan on Facebook. It's going pretty well. I get quite a bit of attention on that. As far as this trip goes, the Facebook is pretty much up to date. There's only a couple of dives I haven't put in there for writing sake, so I can write for a couple magazines on them. But the Facebook is very up to date. It tells the trips. I put a little article in there. Last one I wrote was 1,200 words. So quite a bit in there. The YouTube goes very much so into depth, but I am 9 months behind on the footage. But it goes in depth. I tell the stories. I have original music from artists that I know, to put in the videos. And I do have an Instagram as well. It's a bit of a mess. I just throw pictures up from the past. I don't think I've ever put a picture up that was from the day it happened. But Adventureman Dan, feel free to check out those 3. And I know you guys do a bit of a call to action section. Yep. And I was hoping actually to jump onto that one because I have something pretty particular here that I want to talk about. So I'm coming to the end of this world trip. It'll be about a year and a month when I get back to San Diego. And I've been planning what I want to do next when I do get back, how I want to kind of chase the next adventure, because it really is, for me, it's about adventure. It's not just a catchy name. No, I really do enjoy the adventure. What I'm planning when I do get back is planning up for a few months, and essentially at the start of June, what I call West Coast of North America Spearfishing and Adventure Tour. Okay. So what I'm planning on doing is getting an RV and a travel trailer, a caravan or a pickup truck, and going from Alaska, whole coast, all the way down through British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, California, Baja Norte, and Baja Sur. It's I estimate it'll be about a 4 to 5 month trip. I'll be targeting a few, if I can, world records, especially the Alaskan halibut, and a few other fish that I've just never seen speared. There's quite a few fish I don't see much footage being speared on, and Alaska, for a lot of reasons, hasn't been speared too much, and I'd like to put some more footage in on British Columbia. But for this trip, I'm actually looking for a partner. I think I'd like to do a trip not just solo. I'd like to have somebody there in the water with me, somebody that I could film, somebody that could film me, and somebody that could be a part of the trip and contribute.
Turbo's pretty much already looking at me like he's going to ditch me.
I was going to say, I reckon we could make Spearo matchmaker here. This could be
Spearo
nice.
matchmaker.
Yeah. So send your resumes in, your profiles. We might find a match here. It's going to be really nice.
That'll be cool. That sounds good, Dan. So people can come and find you and have a chat with you if they want to link up with you on your adventure. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, just send a message through. Nothing too specific, but just looking for anybody who's really in it for the adventure. That's basically it. You don't care where they come from or what they look like. Just they're there to spear and have fun.
All right, man. I just wanted to mention a guy, James Fisher, on our Facebook page asked us to interview you as well, Dan. So he's been following your exploits as well as quite a few other people, I believe. So that's cool. It's been awesome chatting with you, Dan. And really, really, really cool hearing your stories and adventures from sort of New Zealand to San Diego, really. And we wish you well in the future, and I hope you have some luck on Spearo Matchmaker.
Thank you guys very much. Thank you very much for having me. You all take care.
Oh, good,
awesome.
buddy.
Thanks, Dan.
Cheers. Anyway, guys, that was a fantastic interview with Adventureman Dan. Check out the show notes at noobspearo.com. If you just pump Adventureman Dan into Google, I'm sure Noob Spearo site will come up. Check them out for all the links. We're going to link in his social profile. And check him out. And if you are keen on doing that West Coast tour with him over there in the United States, reach out to him and let him know that we sent you his way. And Turbo, what have we got next week?
So we're heading to New Zealand to chat with Sebastian Kramer. Originally from Germany, where I think spearfishing's frowned upon. I don't think you're allowed to spearfish in
Banned,
Germany.
yeah,
Banned.
that's right.
Total
yeah.
ban.
So in 2 weeks we got
Boom.
Sebastian Kramer. He's also a freediving instructor, and he takes some trips over to Tonga, and he's done a bit of spearfishing travel himself. So if you want to learn even more about spearfishing travel, that'll be another good episode to listen to. And Turbo, why would people want to sign up to the floater?
Oh, mate, the floater is full of just actionable tips, everything that's going on around Noob Spearo, and the best thing about it is the codes. You can save money on your next purchase. Explain the codes to us there, Shrek.
Well, everyone knows the code Noob Spearo at checkout at spearfishing.com.au. You know, you can save $20 on all gear over 200. But Adreno have also sent a special offer just to people that subscribe to the floater. So head along there and you can get your hands on a free I think it's a Adreno pack. There's a few things in there.
Oh, what's in there?
There's gloves, mask keeper. I think it might be something else too, but I can't quite remember the details. Get on there and check it out. NoSpearo.com.
There's something in there. It's a bag of stuff. Get on there and check it out.
Really sold it.
No, well, I remember it's got gloves in it. That's the best thing.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thanks for listening. Get out in the water. Hope you shoot some fish. Have a great weekend, and we'll chat to you in 2 weeks' time. Guys, if you're looking to improve your freediving and spearfishing, a good set of fins is pretty much mandatory. And the best fins going, in our opinion, are the penetrator fins. So get online, get on to penetratorfins.com and check out the full range there of composites and carbon fibre fins. Composites are tough as nails. They're a fantastic fin, and the carbon fibres are the most reactive fin going. We absolutely love them. Can't kill them either. Had them for years. They're still going strong. And the best thing about this is now we have a code for you guys. So if you pump in Noob Spearo at checkout, you'll save yourself $20 on a set of these great fins. Add to that, we now can offer you $25 flat rate shipping internationally. That is absolutely fantastic, and a full international warranty from penetratorfins.com. So there's no reason not to get in and get yourself one of the most important pieces of spearfishing equipment. That is a good set of carbon or composite blades. So get in there now, check out all the great designs, and get yourself a set of penetrator blades. A big thank you to our sponsor, Adreno. Adreno are one of the world's biggest and best spearfishing stores. They stock a huge range of gear, more than you can imagine. So check them out in store at Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne, or get online. If you like your shopping online, check them out at spearfishing.com.au, where you can save $20 on all purchases over 200 when you check out using the code NoobSpearo. So get online and check them out at spearfishing.com.au and use the code NoobSpearo at checkout.